this is Rumor, and today I have a relatively big stack of decks before me, for I am here in response to Juli at Peekabooorose's new tag, Deck Sacrifice. What Juli is doing here with Deck Sacrifice is just considering the decks that are safe in the collection. You're not waffling on them. They're not in purgatory. You're not debating, should I, shouldn't I? You've got the space to keep them and the inclination to keep them. But if you had to, if you didn't have the room and you just felt so overwhelmed, something had to go, much as you wouldn't want to give it up, which would be the ones that you would. So I didn't want to overthink this too much. I know that this will be subject to change any given day, month, or year. You know how these things go. I know you get it. But I just did a cursory scan of my collection. There could be something I'm not thinking of, but like these were the ones I instinctively grabbed, and it ended up being a tidy count of 10. So I've got 10 decks before you that I will share that I guess I'm saying if I had to, I would give up before I would give up the other decks that are safe in my collection. So let's get started. I generally don't have these in any particular order here, but I thought I would start with a deck where I've got other versions of this deck. And this is the only time I'm selecting a deck from that kind of category, because I do have others that I might have different versions of. But in this case, I bring before you my copy of the Rider-Waite Smith Centennial version, Borderless, which I do love. I love this deck. I'm not giving this away. This is not anything I've ever considered giving away. And I flip through as if you haven't seen RWS before, but you know, just showing specifically this Centennial version without the borders and the softer, more subtle coloration than what I saw in the first version of this deck that I acquired. And this was my first tarot deck ever, which is pretty much the original one, which has the white borders. There might be reversals in here. Oh yeah. Okay, so bear with me. I shuffled this with reversals, but you see you have the white border here. The color is a lot more garish in here. There are brighter yellows, very much a yellow orangey tint to some of these, where that seems a bit better balanced out in here. And if I were one to prepare better for anything, I probably would have put these in some sort of order so I could show you a side by side between cards, but let's see. So it's not as much that the colors are totally different, other than this. This looks yellow to me. I mean, I'm color weak, so I don't see distinctions in certain colors super well. It could also be a yellow green, but you know, in this Centennial version, it is greener. It is more subdued. There's a bit better definition of the king figure, where he just really is like, where does he end and the vines begin? Either on his clothing pattern or the literal vines growing around him, where you can make it out a bit better here. Whereas, because, oh yes, there is another. I have, holy crap. I will link it below in the description. I can't for the life of me remember what this version is called of the Rider-Waite Smith, but I love this version as well. Also have a border not white. It's a bit more of a stony tone, and generally see more grays and taupes. It's like this progression of the color becoming more and more subdued, and I just adore this version. But let's find that king again for sake of comparison. So as you can see, all of the descriptors I have already said. There is nothing more I can say about it. Obviously, this Centennial Borderless version of RWS does offer that variation of the lack of border. And it's like nice, I think, in between the garishness of this and the super softness and grayness of this. And yet, do I really need 3 copies of RWS? No, I don't. And so if I had to choose, the reason why I would keep the original one is because it is my original deck. This was the first one that I got in my greedy little hands and actually could shuffle and start reading with and learning with. So this is so special to me, regardless of its appearance. It's one of those decks. It will never go anywhere. You will have to pull it from my cold dead fingers. And then this one, I just love the coloring so much that I couldn't part with this one either. It's so nice to have that softer contrast while still remaining faithful to the original artwork. So this is just so lovely, lovely, lovely. So I guess like in comparison, this isn't bringing anything enough like different and special that I feel like I would have to hold on to the Centennial RWS. And so for that reason, I don't want to give this away. I'm not going to give this away. That is not the plan right now, man. But if I had to choose one between these 3, it would be this Centennial version of the Rider-Waite Smith. These next 2, I guess, that I'm going to show, they come from my Oceanic bag. If you've seen my series before where I share my bags O Tarot that I have in addition to my boxes O Tarot, which generally capture a certain category of decks. So the Oceanic decks are like my mermaid decks, anything related to the sea and its creatures. And so in that bag, I have this deck that I have not used very much. So for right now, I have no intention of rehoming it. I don't have a sense of, oh, don't I keep it? I really just have to work with it more. And for now, I really love it. It's the Tempest Tarot. And I guess what makes me think of this is the fact that I have this bag full of decks along this theme. So I don't need all of them. And there are some of them that I am really attached to and I have worked with a lot year after year. And so this one, just because I don't like have that attachment to it, at least not yet, I guess it would be one that if I had to choose and I had to thin out that collection within my collection of Oceanic decks, I would probably pass this one on. It is more pippish than the other decks in that grouping are, and I do like scenic cards versus Pip or Marseille style. It's just generally the preference, but I've got, you know, a nice mix of both. And there are scenes, as it were, with some of these pips. They are illustrated to a greater degree than just having the number of objects. But I mean, I love this with the mermaids and pirates, and it just has a vintage feel to it. I love really everything about it. It has such a clean look to it with this white background, and so I think that makes it complement a more scenic card that's more like richly illustrated, and it's nice to have that spareness in contrast and where you can use the pips to read a bit more numerically versus just defaulting to RWS meanings. So, I mean, it's for that reason that I love this deck and I'm keeping this deck. Look at that. That's so cool. It's like the Black Pearl in Pirates of the Caribbean. It's just cool. Two of Swords, like that's just so classic. Walking the plank. It's just great. I don't know how that guy got turned upside down, but you know, that's very RWS, isn't it? So yeah, you kind of have the mix within this deck of the two systems, but I guess because I just have bonded so much with my other ones that maybe this would be the one to go, since I typically don't lean toward Pip style, but this deck's awesome. I love it. And in keeping with that collection, that grouping of my oceanic decks, another one that I could give up and would give up is my Tarot Sirène. As I mentioned before, and I've got this divided actually by major arcana, minor arcana, and court cards. And that's just for my own purposes. I won't get into it now. But let's take from here the majors. Look at, again, the mermaids. I just love it. I just love it. And, you know, this looks so great with the Tempest Tarot. And I again, it's a deck that I feel like, and I guess that is the reason I may as well explain a bit. I've got to divide it out like this. I feel like it's a little deck that I could pull out for clarity, adding to another reading with another deck where I've shuffled it in its entirety. But maybe there's a case where I just want to pull majors to see an overarching energy that informs that reading. If I want to go to a court card to see like the people involved, whatever. That's just kind of the thinking there of what purpose this would serve in that collection, rather than necessarily having it be the base reading that I'm doing. It would be the supplement. So in that respect, I have use for it, and I think it's so stinking cute. Before this, I had the Marshmallow Marseille. And that was why I got this, because I thought, oh, how adorable to have a mermaid version of that deck, which I loved so well. But ultimately, I'm not that into Marseille. And I have other decks based on that system. And so I just rehomed that one quite a while ago. And especially since I had this one, because the art style is very much the same. And if I'm going to choose one or the other, I'm going to go mermaids every time. But that being said, because I do just kind of have it in there in my oceanic bag as a little supplemental deck to inform a larger tarot reading with something else, I don't see it as essential to my collection. Going along with another category, so those were the two I would call for my oceanic decks. These next two are ones that I would call from my collage decks. So this first one is the Uncommon Tarot by Shaheen Miro with commentary by Teresa Reed. I love this deck, though. I enjoy it. I feel like I'm going to be saying the same thing for all of them. I love this deck. I really do. It's just if I had to, it's what I would give up. But I mean, really, I don't know what else to say beyond that. I guess it is just because I also had other collage decks before this one that I bonded with more, had some extraordinary experiences with. But that could just be because those were the decks that I grabbed to have some pretty deep readings with, and I just haven't given this one that opportunity yet. Because look at how beautiful this is. You know, it's not the clearest pictures. They're kind of shiny. The card quality doesn't feel amazing. But as I've said before, that's never the deal breaker for me. But I mean, I guess if we're nitpicking here and I'm having to choose decks that I would rehome if I had to, I mean, I guess that it could come down to factors like that, like the production quality of this one just not feeling amazing, and it's got this silver gilding that I don't think is necessarily an amazing complement to it. But I just think it's beautiful, and what readings I have done, it really seems to read well, and it does encourage my intuition more than just defaulting to traditional meanings. And anyways, yeah, but it's I mean, so that's why it's safe. I want to keep it. I am keeping it, but yeah, ultimately I do have other collage decks that have maybe been more compelling to me. My second collage deck here, which, God, I'm going to get so repetitive. I really love this deck. I do. Tarot of the Cosmic Seed. Oh my gosh, the jewel tones of this deck. It is just gorgeous. Just gorgeous. There's a nice mix of both vintage and contemporary elements. And I don't know. I don't know how to articulate why I grabbed this one. I think it's for all the same reasons as why I would rehome this one before I would my other collage decks. I just don't find myself wanting to reach for this one before one of my other collage decks. And sometimes, I don't know, there could be certain images, and maybe it's like the people in the images, like something can feel, well, of course it's like now it's animals in nature and it's not going to show an actual person, but sometimes the people in here, along the lines of Moonchild Tarot, can feel like more youthful. Sometimes I feel like an old fart where I can just see someone, you know, younger and more boho going to this, but that's not that many cards that would make me feel this way. And ultimately, it's a really beautifully done deck, and I just really want to dive into the colors of it. I just think it's so beautiful, and there are just times I am in a mood for this deck, and this is one where I do actually love the gilding. I just think that's such a pretty complement to the backs and all the colors through. So it's just beautiful, but yeah, just probably one of my lesser used decks. So this one, it's not The Night Circus. It's by the author of The Night Circus, though. Holy crap, what is this? The Phantomwise. I always think of it as a Night Circus deck, but it's the Phantomwise Tarot. This one I would never get rid of, not even because I enjoyed the Night Circus. I mean, I'm not going to say that book blew my mind. I had ample criticism of it when I finished it, but there's no question I adored the atmosphere of it. I just thought the aesthetic was so fabulous. And when I had found out back when I read the book that the author Erin Morgenstern had created a tarot deck, which at that time had been a limited edition indie version, I was so upset that I didn't have an opportunity to have it. I saw the pictures of it at her website, and I would pin it to my Pinterest board because I was so enchanted by it, at least the limited images that I had seen. So now that this is mass market, I just feel like, knowing how badly I had wanted it when I thought I would never have the chance to own it, I couldn't very well give it away now. So this one is safe. There is this Alice in Wonderland quality to it also that I was really feeling at one time. I was in a sort of melancholy, going down the rabbit hole kind of mood, like just wanting to escape. I just wanted to feel enchanted and fanciful. And at that time, I had acquired the Nicoletta Ciccoli Tarot. And what is it called? The Tarot of Mystical Moments, I think. Can you believe that I am not sure? That's such a well-known one. But I had gotten those, and I'd shown them in previous videos how my intention was to use them as like my down the rabbit hole decks. Just kind of wanting to go into and explore this weird interior life that I was kind of experiencing at the time. And ultimately, I have since rehomed both of those decks. They're just not quite what I was looking for. But it occurred to me that this deck just might be that. And I can remember at that time too, Sylvain of Sylvain's Deadly Sins was doing his 365 yellow bricks. I believe that was the tag. And going through the Wizard of Oz series, chapter by chapter, day by day, every day he had devoted to a chapter of a book in that series. And I have my journal from that I will revisit from time to time and read, because it just really, the timing of it was great. It was a really particular point of my life where I needed that kind of introspection. And Dorothy's story of going to Oz feels very much like Alice going down the rabbit hole, you know, into this enchanting, weird, you know, unknown world and discovering new things. So it was a very similar vibe. And so I used this deck for Sylvain's 365 yellow bricks. And it was because it just gave me that going to Oz, going down the rabbit hole feeling. And so for that reason, I feel like this fits better for me what I was aiming for with the Nicoletta Ciccoli. If I wanted that sort of, well, I don't know. This doesn't feel like an inner child deck, but in a way it kind of does. It's something very storybook. It does feel like Wonderland in some ways, but then it evokes these things of the night circus that makes it more adult. So it's almost like it's a fusion of what I was getting from using the Nicoletta Ciccoli and the Tarot Mystical Moments in tandem with each other. So I hold on to it for that reason. But okay, I haven't even explained at all why this is one I think that I might pass on if I had to. The pictures are a bit, God, I hate to say the word crude because I would never be able to make this artwork. But I guess it's a bit like cruder and muddier than I expected, and I don't know why that would be the case, having seen the original images before of the indie deck that preceded this one. So like this picture, I remember having this pinned to a Pinterest board. I just really thought it was so cute. Ultimately, I had enough meaningful readings through Sylvain's Wizard of Oz series that I feel like I'd be hard pressed to part with it, but ultimately feel like I could if I had to. This feels like what my brain is doing right now, just spiraling. I'm in a bit of a brain fog, which is definitely making it harder for me to recall names. I love middle age and perimenopause. It is so great. Please tell me you noted the sarcasm in that little song. This one, I almost can't believe I have this on the table here, but the intuitive night goddess Terra. Really? I mean, of course, I'm feeling this way because I'm not giving it away. I don't wanna. I want this. I just think if I had to, it's not one that I go for as much. It's one where I felt like I had to figure out a specific purpose for it. I edged mine with this color. It was just white before. But I feel like I had to slot it into a specific type of reading that I would use it for to give it a role in my collection. And so usually when a deck is falling into that, where it's not one I'm going to like want to reach for often, it's just going to be for the specific thing, that tends to show that I'm grasping to find a purpose for it and a reason to keep it. So I can't deny that that is part of this deck's story in my tarot journey. But look how beautiful. I mean, I got it in the first place because, again, that vintage aesthetic, it is just so gorgeous. The costuming, the botanicals, and then that it's like set in space. It's so interesting. Why I don't want to grab it more, I don't know. I think at times I have questioned, is it that intuitive? Is it? I don't feel like this is one that I'm like, oh yeah, this, I just get it and feel it in my gut like no other deck can do for me. No, I don't feel that way about it at all. There are certain images that are actually very similar to each other. I mean, if we're looking, it's ultimately like these goddess figures sitting on their lush planet with the night sky behind them. It's not all that much variation ultimately, but obviously when you stare your way into the pictures more, they are different from each other. I'm not saying they look like carbon copy, not by any stretch. They do bring their own energy, but when I think of my most intuitive decks, this isn't one of them. And so maybe that's the reason why I would ultimately part with this if I had to, because I feel like there are other decks I can read with more clearly, and that I will go to more for a general reading. So as it is, I have been using this for my divine feminine readings that I do on a monthly basis. I've shared before how on the first day of my menstrual cycle, yep, I will pick a card from the Divine Feminine Oracle as the Divine Feminine energy I am meant to embrace during that cycle. And then I use this deck to do a reading to further unpack that and help me understand how I can embody that Divine Feminine energy and actually carry it out in my day-to-day life. So oh, it's beautiful. Yeah. You know, again, looking at it, not going anywhere, but it's one I wish so badly that I wanted to use more than I do, and I just don't. A deck that gives me a similar feeling, and this choice almost surprises me, but the Dreaming Way Tarot. This is my trimmed copy of it. I cut the borders off. Seriously, am I going to say it again? I love this deck. God. So I'm going to slap myself. Like, someone donate a thesaurus to me so I can offer more variation in my wording. But I do generally like the aesthetic of this. I don't love every image, but I really like the fashion in it, and just, I don't know, even just this. I do think it's like a beautiful style of art. It's unusual, like what some of the fashions are, like, you know, with these kind of conical hats and things that they'll have, things that are almost court jester-ish in some cards, nightgown-ish in others, and you know, it always makes me wonder what directly inspired this deck, and perhaps that's something I could look more into. I never have. So often I just get a deck and I just hit the ground running with it, and I just try to discover it for myself in my own way without knowing too much about it. But then there are certain ones that do intrigue me to research more about the creators' thinking behind it, and this one definitely still makes me curious of that. Like with these shoes, they're always so long. What's up with that? What is this world? When is this world? Where is this world? Like, so much I don't get. And so I say similar to the Intuitive Night Goddess, perhaps because I don't get the clearest readings from this. I don't know why. And it could just be because there are certain elements I won't understand. Like this one actually has been a card. Her with a bunch of like shopping bags, it seems, doesn't really scream Seven of Pentacles to me, but then that's fine because it encourages me to think of it in a different way and lift me out of trying to think of like memorized meanings and just go with what's more intuitive. And it's not that I haven't been able to go through each one of these and work through how it can ultimately tie to the meanings as I do understand them, in addition to bringing their own thing. But, you know, sometimes I go in a bit of circles with it. So it's not one that I lay down and I'm just like, boom. And, you know, to be fair, there's a lot of other decks where that's the case. But I guess it's just when I know that feeling with the ones that do read so clearly and well for me, in comparison to that, like this. I've never cared for this card, for Three of Pentacles. She's balancing like a paper bag on her head with the coins tumbling out. And she looks like, oh, sulky, petulant. I don't know. So anyways, there's not enough cards like that kind of stump me to turn me off, but, and you have ones like this, like that's a very clear judgment card. That's fair enough. Some of the facial expressions I think will kind of be strange for what the energy of the card is as far as how I typically understand it, and can kind of like tweak the meaning a bit. But again, that would be a reason why I would go to this deck, because it's bringing a different viewpoint. It is encouraging my intuition in different ways. And like Nine of Cups, like you think you'd be so happy. She doesn't look happy, but that brings a meaning into it, doesn't it? Like that's a shadow Nine of Cups. Sometimes what you think will be fulfilling isn't. But then isn't that what we moved on from in the 8? So the 9 doesn't seem to quite be the achievement of that yet either in this deck. And so I don't know. It's a more contemplative card. Maybe just really, really, really thinking about what is going to bring that sense of fulfillment. So anyway, that's the main reason why. If I had to, I think I could part with this deck, but I mean, it's so cool. I do love it. So I'm not planning to. This has never been one that I've ever debated on. So it's absolutely safe. Bringing in another world where it's like, where and when is this? It's the Anarchy. It was a long time in coming, but eventually, yes, I did get this deck with its quirky little people, and it did endear itself to me from the jump. I sat with it, I edged it, I took in every card and saw the meaning so clearly, so darlingly, like figures that don't necessarily have the cutest faces by conventional standards. They're adorable. It's a little village I'd be happy to visit. And I do find this one to be a clear reader, but I feel like I got it, first of all, because it seems like everyone talks about it and that there is such love for it out there and like imploring people to give it a chance. And so I wanted to, and I'm glad that I did. And I think another reason was just, I don't know, perhaps it was autumn, winter. There was something seasonally going on with me where I just felt this pull towards something medieval, and why that had anything to do with the season, I'm not sure, because it's not like it's autumnal or wintry. You kind of see a bit of everything in here, but just generally the tones and the setting. I like to have it for when that feeling comes around again, that it does tend to be cyclical and maybe not necessarily with the cycle of the seasons. It might just be these seasons of my life, my moods. I don't know. There's just a time that I want a deck like this in like a period like this. And when I know that it'll be clear, but when that is, I mean, who knows? So it's not one that I go for often at all. I can't even think of the last time I did a reading with this, actually. Pretty sure it's been over a year, if I'm honest. So I just kind of have it. So it's just one of those decks that I'm glad to have, but I rarely feel the need to actually use. So for that reason, if I had to pass it on, I think I could. So for number 10, this is one of the first decks to come to my mind, actually, before I even started looking at my collection. Terra Volatile. Now, this is one I have waffled on before, but I am in the zone now where I intend to keep it. I can tell I would really regret it if I didn't keep this deck. It just feels like for collection, if anything. I do use it, I just don't use it often. And well, one of the things is perhaps exemplified by the fifth suit that it provides, which is alchemical. And I have not studied alchemy in relation to the occult, the tarot, and so forth. And so that is something I one day intend to do. But that's kind of how I feel about this whole deck. I mean, this is just chock full of symbolism. Feels very of the history of the occult. I can definitely just pull this deck out, shuffle it, throw the cards down, and use it. I had no problems reading with it for any kind of tarot reading. I just know that as I'm doing so, there's something I'm probably glossing over, some choices in the imagery that are very intentional. I doubt there's anything in any of these images that's unintentional. But I mean, of course, everything's intentional, but like, I feel like everything is like deeply intentional. Like this is something that's been very, very well thought out. And I know that there is now a book that accompanies this that I can learn from. And it's just one of those things where I just haven't been up to that study yet. I haven't been compelled to do it yet. But I would very much like to one day. I don't have the book yet, but hopefully will someday when I am ready to properly sit with this. And so I guess that's the thing where like, I really do. It's not to not be learned and studied in this practice, because it just does have such a fascinating history. And I don't want meanings of symbols to go over my head. But that being said, it is also very much a practice. It's very important to me to be going at it intuitively. And as I mentioned for a deck earlier, where I think with Dreaming Way, I was saying like, it's something I never really looked into more as far as like what the artist's intentions were, because I mean, generally when I go into a deck, I really do just want to use it. And it's not to say I won't use a tarot guidebook, but I just want to be able to know that the symbols resonate with me innately somehow already, and without knowing why they were chosen specifically for one deck or another. I can just tell though that there's stuff going back to antiquity that I would, you know, my mind could definitely munch on with this deck, and I just haven't been willing to put the work into it for that. And as far as like aesthetics, it's gorgeous, but I guess I waffled on it before. One, because I was not sure if I was really wanting to put the work into it. And then secondly, like if I want something that looks like old-fashioned and vintage, I have other decks like that, and other decks that I feel more bonded with. So I didn't really feel like I needed another one. So ultimately, you know, if I had to, relative to those other decks that I'm thinking of, I would pass this one on before I would pass on any of those. And so that's why it's in this video. But I also want to be clear that it's not one I am waffling on. This isn't in purgatory. It never has been. I did make the decision that this is a collector item, if it's anything. But that said, as you can see, it wasn't in any sort of order. I do use it, just not often. So there you have it with the 10 decks that, as of now, I would sacrifice from my collection if I had to, but as of now, they are all in the safe zone. They are going right back with my other much treasured decks. And so I thank you for joining me. If you did today, I would love to hear your thoughts on any of the decks that I shared here. Perhaps some of these have been unsafe in your collection and they have been put in your purgatory, rehomed. Maybe some of these are your ride or dies and you are absolutely appalled that I would even consider giving them away, but I'm not. It's just for the sake of this tag. It's just for the sake of this tag. Blame Juli, not me, right? Sorry to throw you under the bus, Julie. But no, honestly, I was give me your thoughts, please, on any and all of these, and you might help me look at some of them in a different light. Whatever you'd like to share about them, do leave a comment below. And until next time, I appreciate you being here with me. Bye-bye.